We're going to now walk through the steps to draw your car design in Illustrator. First thing you need to do is open up the template that's been provided to you. You'll see in this template we have a couple of layers. We've got the hole locations, which are those red circles in the middle, and we've got the gearbox as well. Now it's important that we don't modify these two layers. Those holes are going to help us locate that gearbox so we can bolt that on correctly. So making sure we're working in the layer 2, we're going to start drawing our chassis. First thing we need to do is draw the body of our car, and this is going to be the fold lines that we're going to use for our once we put it on the strip heater. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle and make sure the inside of the rectangle is transparent so we can see through. Then I'm going to use the transform option to get the exact size for my body. So remember, the maximum width of your car can be 85 millimeters. You can go smaller, but the maximum width is going to be 85 millimeters, and that's to make sure you have enough axle to put the wheels on. You then need to locate the square so that it lines up and intersects that shaft for your gearbox in both horizontal and vertical locations. There we go. So the center of that box is now lining up to the center of that shaft. That'll make sure that when we put the pulleys on, the tension is correct on both the wheels. Now that I've got my fold lines set, I need to put in my cut line. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool again, and this time I want to go a little bit wider than my box, so when I fold it, I've got some meat on the sides. They're going to ensure that the legs don't break. So this one I went 85 wide. So my next one, I'm going to go 95 wide. So aim for about 10 millimeters wider, as you can see there, than your box. So I want that to be the same width as my original box. Now, remember, the length and width are completely up to you. You don't have to copy what I've done in the video. That all comes down to your design and how you figured out the weight. There we go. So that is now center. As that's a cut line, I'm going to make sure I change that outline to red. So these black lines here will be where my car gets folded on, and this red line is where it's going to cut. The next step is to work out the length of these legs that we have on here. So we have two options. You can see there. We have two options here. We've got the large belt, which is 100mm, and the small belt, that's 65, or a combination of both. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the pen tool, and I click that, and I'm going to come to my fold line. It's important that I'm doing this on my fold line, not on this red line here, because this is the actual width of my chassis. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to drag that line out. Now you can see there I've got a little dimension popping up, and deciding whether you want 100mm or 65, you're going to work it so it's around 100mm, and the next step you need to do is work out the angle of the line. So for example, if I was to draw it right out here, it's going to be a very long car but very low to the ground, whereas if I come down more straight down like this at about 100mm, it's going to be a very high car and very short as well. So pick the angle you want to go to based on your design sketches. When you get close to 100mm, click once, then hit escape to finish drawing. The next step is to get the circle tool. The circle tool is on the left hand side here, hidden under the rectangle tool. So if you left click on rectangle, and you're looking for the ellipse tool. Then you come down here, click once, and the size of this hole is going to be 3mm wide and 3mm high. That's going to be a hole that's going to be big enough for your axle. I'm going to then use the selection tool, or V on the keyboard, to click and drag that circle to the end of my line. Next we need a second ellipse, and this time it's going to be approximately 10 mil. Again, this is something you can design. It can be larger, however I would avoid going smaller because it would make it quite fragile and might be easy to snap on the end. So what I have now is my center line for where the shaft is going to go, or the axle is going to go, based on the 100mm, which is the larger belts. I've got my 3mm circle for the axle, and this circle here would be the outside curve of the leg, as you can see in this template here. So there's my 3mm, and that outside one is approximately 10mm. Our next step is to draw the width of our legs. To do that, I'm going to use the pen tool again, and this time I'm going to come from the corner here of that red box I drew, the bigger box. I'm going to click there once. I'm going to come down, and what you're looking for here is for it to join onto the path of that circle. Right, once you've got the path there, you can click that to join that on. Next, we need to work out the inside of this leg, how we're going to do that. So again, using the pen tool, going to come down here, find a path, click on that, and you want to position this somewhere that looks about right, and the height of it is up to you. So you can come all the way up here and join it back onto that extra add-on you added to fold the acrylic, or if you want a bigger wall on the side, you can do that as well. But you're just going to make sure it intersects that line and click once. Once you've done that, you have the makings of the wheel. So the next step is going to be to drag a box around all those so that both the circles and these three lines are selected. And we're going to go up to Object, Transform, and we're going to Reflect. So you can see straight away it's giving me a little preview there where it's flipped it around. So make sure you have preview on so you can see that. In this case we want to go vertical, and we want to hit copy. If we hit OK, it'll delete our original lines. So we just want to copy that over, and there we go, we got that direct copy. Now you want to drag that and try to position it. I want you to zoom in to get it right. Position it so that those lines intersect at that corner there. And if you got that right, the line over here should intersect as well. And that's how you draw the design for the wheels. To get it up the top of the car, we're going to use the same thing. We're going to select all those. We want to make sure we're going to get the leg parts. There we go. So now we've got both the sides, and we're going to go to Object, Transform, Reflect again. This time we want to go horizontal. So you can see there it's flipped it horizontally. And make sure we hit copy. And we're going to drag this up. And again, in this case here might help to zoom in. And you want that to line up to the center point here, and these legs to the exact same point as well. Once you've got that, it's a matter of combining this all together to make it one shape. Now you want to select the legs and the rectangle that you use as a cut, and I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool. I'm going to mouse over and check to make sure all my lines are joined. So you can see here, I'll zoom in again, if it's grey here, that means that that's a solid. That's what we want. That's a solid. That's joined in, that's joined in, that's joined in, that's joined in. So that's perfect. I'll go to then click and drag over all those things that I want to join together. Make sure all the parts are grey. Left click, and you can see there that joined on perfectly. I've got a few little leftover lines which I'll want to delete because I don't want those to cut on the laser cutter. Delete those, delete those. And that side's done. Now I need to do this side. Now let's just say I'll quickly move one of these out of the way because there's a purpose gap there. Now when you're doing this, if you're trying to select and combine, do that again, using the shape builder tool, you can see that I'm getting my shaded in areas, but this one is not shading in here. If you're getting that, you need to find out where the gaps are. So make sure you zoom in on all these lines and make sure that these lines are intersecting the other paths. To do that, you need this white arrow here, the direct selection tool. Click the little anchor on the end of those lines. It's a little square, might be a bit hard to see on the screen, but on yours it might be a bit easier. So I'm going to click that once to select it, clicked it again, and now I can move it. So I'm going to drag that until it intersects that other line there. So again, zoom out. Alright, so now I'm going to reselect those lines. Now that I've moved that point, go back to the shape builder. There we go. So now I can drag those together. See here, I can't select this one still, so I'll need to investigate what's going on there. So again, use my direct selection tool, find the anchor on the end of that line, click once to select it, and click it again to drag. Make sure I get that on the path there. Again, zoom in, you can see I missed that one, so choose it once. There we go, on the path. Then I'll zoom out, select those objects again, shape builder one more time. There we go, now I've got it. So I can click and drag those together. Again with my direct selection tool, the selection tool, the black arrow, and I click those extra little bits and whoops. There we go, deselect, reselect, delete those extra parts that I don't need. And if I zoom out now to see it all, there we go. So now that's my car drawn for the 100mm O-rings. Last thing I need to do is hide this gearbox shape. So I'm just going to go to my layers, which is hidden over here on the right hand side of the screen, and just hit the little eyeball to hide that. We don't want to hide the holes. We want to make sure we've got our fold lines there, all of our holes lined in the outline red, and our fold lines in black. I'm going to come up to File, I'm going to make sure we save our template, and then we're going to go to File and Export, Export As, and we're going to choose this DXF type here. Hit Export. On this screen that comes up, just ignore the settings and hit OK. And once it's complete, you've successfully created the file ready for laser cutting. So submit that to your teacher as per the method they've said to, for your car to then be cut out, and that will complete your vehicle.